football is back. Week 1 is in the books. And look at this motherfucker standing there with that trophy and all that cash, not even smiling. And we're all trying to steal that away this year. That is the ultimate goal. We've got 7 names on there. And barring any unforeseen circumstance, we're going to have an 8th name on there this year. And actually, it looks like we're going to be ready to add another tier in the next upcoming off season. So that's very, very exciting. Welcome to year 8 of the Drunken Fumble, which is just awesome. 3 years with the same guys, which is just fantastic. And it's been a weird year with COVID and no preseason, and the rookie talent that has come in this year has been just unreal, I think, anyway, especially at the running back and wide receiver positions, which obviously the skill positions in fantasy football. And they're very, very important, especially in our league, being a PPR league. And there's been a lot of injuries. A lot of craziness going on in football. I feel like everything is so much up in the air, more so than it usually is, and maybe that's just because of no preseason. But it just seems like a really weird year. The waiver wire seems, well, it was full yesterday. It doesn't seem as full today. But it's looking pretty good. So we got this asshole that we're trying to steal this trophy from. And let's roll right into it, into week 1. Fourth and Lynch's the reigning champion, getting defeated week 1 by the greatest of all time, 176 to 159 and a half. Devontae Adams, he was the big difference here. You can see 156 yards on 14 catches. I think he had 19 targets. And Jamison Crowder had a good day. He had a long touchdown. It was nice to see CEH and David Johnson both look like good running backs for their respective teams. I was a little nervous about CEH being a first-round pick as a rookie, and David Johnson obviously with the up and down fantasy production he's had in the past couple of years. Took a flyer with Blake Jarwin. I was pretty happy about getting him real late. I don't know why I believed in him. I guess I saw a guy online that liked him, and he tore his ACL after getting 1 catch. So I guess that kind of, I don't know, him and I are like fucking kindred spirits, I suppose. On the other side, Fourth and Lynch's actually had a pretty darn good day, 159.5 points. Julio had a good day, 157 yards and 9 catches. I mean, that's quintessential Julio. Ton of yards, ton of targets, 0 touchdowns. And he had a pretty good solid day all around. Going into Monday night, he was just a little bit hindered. He needed a few more points than he could have gotten. He had Daniel Jones playing against the Pittsburgh defense. He had both those players, so every time Jones threw an interception, he would lose 2 points, but Pittsburgh would gain 2 points. But it kind of maxed out Casey's ceiling from Monday night, which worked for me, and I was able to hold on to the win. Going next matchup here to Will against Wade, the battle of the Saskatoonites. I mean, Will just walking away with this one, really didn't have to do a whole bunch. Big Ben looked pretty good. Godwin, I mean, he had quite a few targets in Tampa Bay. I think he was actually the reception leader, but it's only because there was their third wide receiver had dropped a catch, I think. But Godwin did look pretty good. I think him and Tom Brady have a little bit of work to do. That should get better. CD Lamb had a decent day. He'll be an interesting one to watch. They do have Michael Gallup as the second wide receiver in Dallas. But CD Lamb looked really good in that game. McCaffrey just being McCaffrey. 2 rushing touchdowns. That was actually a really good game to watch, the Vegas-Carolina game. Vegas did come away with it 34-30. Looking at the other pieces here, Ertz was fairly quiet. I mean, he had a touchdown, but Goddard was the one getting all the tight end targets in Philly. Their wide receiver core is in shambles right now. Looking over at Butker with my Chubb. Man, Wade. You got Josh Jacobs. And that's it. There's just not a lot going on. Baker Mayfield looked atrocious, which hindered OBJ's value. And then, talking about rookies earlier, your 2 wide receivers after OBJ, N'Keal Harry and Jalen Reagor, both rookies. Reagor was actually not expected to play today, or this past weekend. due to an injury. And he was supposed to miss a week or two at the very least, and he came back and he did salvage a fantasy day by having 1 catch, I think, on 4 targets. Nick Chubb, that looks like a 50-50 backfield between him and Kareem Hunt, and that's tough for a first or second round pick. I'm assuming he's your second because Jacobs probably went higher. Darren Waller looked fine. I mean, he's going to be a plug-and-play tight end all year. But Wade, you got some work to do. Rolling into the next matchup, we got the Battle of the Gingers here. The titties, the big fucking anime titties, and the show me your titties. Big fucking anime titties coming away with the win, 153-129. Lamar Jackson looking really good. DeAndre Hopkins, he might have been the surprise wide receiver of the week. I know Adams had 41 points or something, but Hopkins had 1 less target, just as many catches as Devontae Adams in a new offense. And he just signed a huge deal for himself, which he didn't even use an agent for. He actually negotiated terms of his contract himself, and he got paid. And so it was good to see him going. Chris Carson, I mean, he had 2 touchdowns, but he didn't run the ball a whole bunch. I mean, that was kind of a different game script in Seattle and Atlanta. It was a different game to watch. Atlanta didn't look like Atlanta a lot of the times, and well, I mean, it was just the Russell Wilson show. Mark Ingram, Austin Hooper, obvious disappointments there, but still coming away with the win. Spencer, Juju Smith-Schuster had a big night. Kamara did what Kamara does. That whole New Orleans, they won. They beat Tampa Bay 34-23, but that did not look like the Saints. Michael Thomas was not good and obviously suffered a high ankle sprain, so that's going to be a huge detriment, I think, or at least at the very least a certain big shoes to fill on Jesse's team. Lev Bell was kind of a no-show. Jared Goff was kind of a no-show, but that was just kind of the game script going on between Dallas and the Rams. It was a very defensive game. Moving on to Fear Boners taking on Watson the second. Watson second. Fear Boners coming away with the win, 163-120. Aaron Rodgers was Aaron Rodgers, and that Minnesota secondary looked absolutely horrible. And yeah, I still wore the hat, but I was reluctant. That looked really bad, to the point where they might be one of the teams you start wide receivers against because they have 2 rookie cornerbacks, I believe. They got rid of both their guys from last year, and it did not look good. Aaron Rodgers, 30 points, 4 touchdowns, and 364 yards. He was unbelievable. Adam Thielen did have a good day. Once the Minnesota, kind of realized that they were going to have to score some points, they did start airing it out a bit, and Thielen had a good day, 6 catches for 2 touchdowns and 110 yards to go with it. Jonathan Taylor, 14.9 points. He scares me a little bit because he has so much opportunity behind the best offensive line in football. And I don't think that game went the way Indianapolis was hoping. But I do think Rivers is a serviceable enough quarterback if you're going to be running 2 tight end sets and passing out of the to the running back out of the backfield. They could be a good team, but Jonathan Taylor is going to have huge opportunity there. I don't know. I mean, I know he had 6 catches in this game, but Nyheim Hines might be the pass catcher there because he looked unbelievable in that Indianapolis game. Going over to Jesse's team here, Deshaun Watson had an okay day. Michael Thomas was just a no-show, and now he's supposed to miss multiple weeks with a high ankle sprain. For your sake, Jesse, I hope they put him on the IR because that's only 3 weeks this year, and give him a chance to rest up. Because if they try and push him on the field and he plays with a high ankle sprain all year, yeah, he might be Drew Brees' number 1 target, but I don't think it's going to be the year that you were hoping for. Edelman looked pretty good. He did what Edelman does. I mean, he touches the ball. He's not going to get a lot of touchdowns throughout the year, but he did have 5 catches and he had a bunch of rushing yards as well. So James Conner, obviously a big question mark there. Tariq Cohen didn't really perform. I mean, it was kind of the team that Jesse built, taking Michael Thomas #1 overall early in the first round, and now he's injured, and he's going to have a little bit of work here to do, I think. And I noticed that Casey picked up James Conner's backup and put in a waiver bid on him, and actually the fab bid was pretty cheap, all things considered. I almost would have bought him for that cheap, and I don't even need him. But so that was a good pickup by Casey there. So Shane coming away with the win, 163 to 120. Moving on to AJ taking on Nick. It's a pretty good matchup between two starting running kind of oriented quarterbacks, or certainly quarterbacks that can run. Between Josh Allen and Kyler Murray. Both had more than 27 points, both had a rushing touchdown, and both looked pretty good in their respective games. Looking at Zeke had a good day. I'm actually surprised Dallas lost that game. I don't know what edged them out. I don't know what LA did to kind of beat them, but I think Dallas was the heavy favorite going into that game just because of the offensive potential. And the belief in Dak this year is quite high. Joe Mixon, AJ, I'm with you. I know you were auto drafted and Mixon fell to the 3rd round, and a lot of these places are saying you should trade for Mixon right now because he had a bad week. Well, I wasn't sold on Mixon. I don't know how he is ranked so high. Maybe he'll turn it around. I don't know. That's a tough one. Jared Cook looked good, and honestly, Jared Cook is a must start in these next few weeks while Michael Thomas is gone, because the opportunity is absolutely going to be there. Over on Nick's side, just a couple decent performances across the board, but nobody really stood up. Kirk Cousins was forced to throw quite a bit and had a decent day, for him fantasy-wise. Saquon had 6 rushing yards. 6 on, is he going to tell me let's see what he had here. 6 rushing yards on like 16 attempts. It was ridiculous. That Pittsburgh defense looked stout. And honestly, coming back to Monday night, what lost Nick this week was the same thing that loses him every year. Look at that. Who's that? That's a New York Giant. What's that? Oh, that's New York Giant. Oh, what's that? 2.9? 12.6. Yeah. You got to stop taking Giants in the drafts, Nick. That's your downfall right there. Moving on to the last matchup of the week, Jack and Goff taking on the Broken Johnsons. This was the absolute matchup of the week. The final lead change was about 9 minutes left in the last game on Monday night. It was a high-scoring affair, but Eric does come away with the win, 168-46 to 158-76. It was a very, very close game. Russell Wilson, 4 passing touchdowns, 322 yards, and he had some rushing yards. Here's the crazy thing. He was 31 for 35, and he was the only quarterback in week 1 to not throw a pass into tight coverage. Now, I don't know if that's because Atlanta's defense is really bad or if his wide receivers are just that good. I guess it's probably a combination of the two. But he did not throw one pass into tight coverage. I think tight coverage is less than a meter. So every single throw he made out of 35, they had more than a meter of separation, which is just crazy. They allowed Wilson to air it out, and he did. He did not disappoint. And they won that game against Atlanta 38-25. Calvin Ridley, obviously a part of that game as well, and kind of a high-scoring affair. And if Julio's not getting the touchdowns and Hayden Hurst doesn't see a lot of targets, where are they going to go to? Calvin Ridley all year long. He could be the touchdown leader this year very easily. Hollywood Brown looked pretty good. Derrick Henry looked okay. That Denver defense actually looked pretty good, despite losing their linebacker there, Von Miller. And they kind of shut him down. You know, he still had 116 rush yards, but as Derrick Henry, he should be able to fall forward for 100 yards fairly easily. Melvin Gordon looked okay. And I think that's going to be kind of a trend going forward because the other running back there is injured, and I don't know what his outlook looks like. But Melvin Gordon could be a must start for the foreseeable future. And yeah, that's going to wrap it up. I guess that means we need to decide who the Superman of the Week is. And the easy one, it would have been to say me. I had a good week. I beat Casey, who had a good week. But honestly, it's not. It's going to Eric here. Eric came back a Monday night to take the win, and this was a really, really good matchup. Rob unfortunately had to go to bed because the second game was so late. And let's see if I can get in here. Okay, so you can see how tight this was. We had a lead change here, we had a lead change here, we had a lead change here. It was really, really fun. And you know what? It was on Monday night. That's what I was watching. I was watching that matchup, and it looked really good. It was fun to watch, and that's why we like fantasy football. We like the upsets, we like the luck, the stuff that comes with it. So I'm just looking for, and you kind of know what's coming. Yeah, we're gonna do that one more time. Maybe a third time. Wade. What is happening? You got Josh Jacobs.
No,
this might be...
This is Patrick!
That I didn't mean to play. I don't know how to pause this. It's gone now. You've got Josh Jacobs. Now might be a time to try and trade him for 3 not bad starters, because that is a tough situation. Mayfield looked so bad. So bad. And looking at your bench, Dobbins, he had 2 touchdowns to make a fantasy day, but didn't really do anything other than that. Sam Darnold is your second quarterback. But Marlon Mack was in your flex spot. Man. Hopefully Mike Evans picks it up. I heard that the Tampa Bay coach, can't remember his name, was disappointed and felt bad about Mike Evans' usage. So hopefully Brady goes to him a little more. Mike Evans doesn't have the separation that Godwin has from players, and Brady does not like throwing into that tight window. He's all about the high percentage passes. Moving the ball forward, getting the sticks moving, and Mike Evans just wants to catch contested balls. So that's going to be something they're going to have to work on in order to be successful, because they're not going to be successful in Tampa Bay if they do it one way or the other. They're going to need Mike Evans to step up. So hopefully he does. Gronk is not the answer. You can probably drop him. Anyway, that's going to wrap up the Commish address for Week 1, 2020. It has been a pleasure all these years, and it will be a pleasure going forward. All hail the Commish.